rock bottom back into action in any situation, especially right now. So if life has knocked you down, pick yourself up with bootstraps and bra straps. Get your copy at www.SheilaMac.com today.
Are you ready for a reboot? Welcome to the Sheila Mac Show, reality at its finest. History reminds us those hit hardest often become the change makers. This year, we've all hit crazy economic, social, and emotional rock bottoms. We all get knocked down. Something hits globally, locally, personally. It affects our health, finances, our relationships. We have to recreate a business or career. Each show, Sheila and her special guest will be sharing their reboot stories, guiding you with real solutions to upgrade and up-level emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually, and financially. Here on NBC's KCAA Radio, Mondays at 1 and Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Pacific Time. If you're ready to pull yourself up by the bootstraps and bra straps, enjoy a listen. Here's Sheila.
Hey, welcome to the Sheila Mac Show, reality at its finest. Here we have real people sharing real stories and actionable steps to help you reinvent, rebuild, and reboot your business and personal life on your terms. I'm your host, Sheila Mac, and today we have special guest Michael McBay. He is from the band Circle the Earth. Now, Circle the Earth is a diverse group of talented musicians from different backgrounds, ethnicities, and regions who have come together to create a powerful commercial pop rock sound with a groove sure to move your soul. Now, Michael is located in Los Angeles, California, and I've actually seen this incredible band perform, so I'm happy to have Michael on the show today. Welcome.
Thank you very much for having me, Sheila.
All right. And one of the things that I like to start off each show with is I like to ask, based on my new best-selling book, Bootstraps and Bra Straps, the formula to go from rock bottom back into action in any situation. Right now, our world has seen just about every situation imaginable and more. And so I'd like to hear maybe if you have a story to share about a time in your business or personal life where you hit a tough situation and how you overcame that.
Absolutely. I was addicted to crack cocaine for 20 years while I was in residency, emergency medicine residency at Martin Luther King Hospital. I left residency and worked for maybe 4 or 5 years until my addiction overcame me, and stopped working and lived off family inheritances and savings and things like that. I was put into mandatory treatment a couple of times, but it didn't work because my intelligence and my ego stopped me from accepting direction. And fortunately for me, I had a bunch of spiritual experiences prior to all this with a spiritual teacher named John Roger that I was with for several years. And after the addiction overcame me completely and I was rock bottom, I was left with just myself and God in my inner direction. So at the point when I was able to surrender my ego and surrender my self-will to a higher power and to treatment and to the values that I knew in my heart were the right ones, I was able to climb out of it gradually. I've been sober over 10 years now. I'll be sober 11 years in April. I still do voluntary drug testing to keep myself in check. And I still do voluntary group meetings with other physicians on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And most importantly, I try to be of maximal loving service to my fellow people as much as possible with my heart. And that's what's keeping me sober now.
Wow. Seems like how old were you when you started this addiction? You must have been quite young.
Oh, no, I'm 64. I did.
Oh my God, you look amazing, Michael.
No, I dabbled in marijuana and alcohol, starting in high school and all that, but the addiction didn't actually take hold of me or interrupt my career path or my life flow until I was probably 32 or 33 in medical residency. I went to med school later than the average person.
Okay.
So I was addicted for 20 years. I got sober when I was 55, so about 11 years ago.
Wow. And what a gift to have you here today.
Thank you.
And know that you help a lot of other people and
As
that
much.
you're a strong voice for good in the community, and that's what I love. And there's a lot of people out there that are struggling with addictions, maybe that they hide really well, but,
Or
but
not so well.
yeah, and not so well. At some point, it can't be hidden any longer, and it's really hard. Or maybe if you're listening in, you may have a family member, a friend, or a loved one that has been struggling with an addiction, and either you're trying to cover it up, or you might want to give up on this person, but there is the other side of it, and there is always hope. So don't give up. There is always the other side of it, but it is a tough journey, and it takes a lot of determination and fortitude to get back out of that, because then you're in control again. Now you're in control of your life. And
or God is in control of my life with me.
yeah, well, really, are we really? So it really is a higher power, God source, and us being able to live through something like that and come out the other side. So that's incredible. So I'd love to hear more about the band right now. If you are tuning in, we're going to take a pause for 1 second, and we will go to a video to share about the band so you can see them perform. So take a listen and share one of the new release songs from Circle the Earth. So take a listen.
Oh, he's dead. He's f***ing with my head already. This one holds me at a ransom, haunts me like a phantom. Too hard to call it quits, so what a risk in that one. Body like a fun house, no shame with a big mouth. He writes a funeral before he wins. I'm hearing things. Your charm is so damn loud. I'm still in trance to keep your poison out. Too many exits and those turn to exits. Oh no. Body's talking sorry, but no chance tonight. Want your filthy fire to bring me to life. You can gamble your fun, but you're dead if you want some. Oh, he's dead. He's f***ing with my head already. Handsome, got a face of an actor, but I know what he's after. So hard to bury him, yeah, when he sins in this one. Haunts me with the drama. Let's go on my karma. I'll be under his spell, I know he will. Handsome, you got a face of an actor. I draw hard, but I know what he's after. So hard to bury him, yeah, when he sins. I'll be wishing on the star that this can be the end. This one, he tryna haunt me with the drama. The general, last go on my karma. He got me under his spell. Black magic, I know it well. Too many exits and those turn to exits. Too many exits and those turn to exits. Too many exits and those turn to exits. Oh no. Body's talking sorry, but no chance tonight. Want your filthy fire to bring me tonight. You can gamble your fun, but you're dead if you want some. Body's talking sorry, but no chance tonight. Want your filthy fire to bring me to life. You can gamble your fun, but you're dead if you want some.
Okay, and then if you're staying on live right now, you won't see that, but I will post that below this after we do this live. So, Michael, could you share about how the band started and how you got into music?
I've been playing bass guitar since I was in high school at age about 15 or 16. And I played in a high school band playing rock stuff because I integrated Atlanta, Georgia's last private white high school. So I was surrounded by white music. I started listening to Slime, The Family Stone, Jimi Hendrix, And then the band, yes, really changed my outlook on music, the spirituality of it, the technicality of it, the musicality of it, and the esoteric aspects of it just took over, and I have followed them for a long time. Played bass, tried to imitate that kind of music. And I went to Stanford, and I met a gentleman named John Ivey, who was a black guy, a genius from Tennessee. He had gotten state awards in music and acting and academics, and he was an incredible keyboardist, virtuoso keyboardist. So we got credit to put together commercial songs for extra credit at Stanford, and then we moved to Los Angeles. He went to UCLA Law School, and I came to LA and went to USC Med School just for a second, just so I could get my feet on the ground. I quit school and got a job and funded the band. We put together a live original project called Talisman, and we played very high energy commercial jazz rock for about 20 years. After a while, that type of music fell out of style, and I wanted to do more commercial rock kind of thing. And John went back to finish law school, went on and became a federal judge. He's a federal judge now, very super guy. And in the meantime, I started a new band with a rock guitarist named Phil Von Hake and a singer named Randy Williams. I got the drummer for that band was Eric Singer, who's in Kiss now. And then we played with Chris Poland from Megadeth and Mark Bowles, who was a singer for Yngwie Malmsteen at that point. I played with a lot of people who made it later. And that band was called Icebreaker. Then the drugs took over. I stopped playing music. And then I met a singer named Candace Aragon about, let's say, 15 years ago. She was a singer-songwriter, and I had given up playing music, but she was so good, I started putting money into her. And eventually I put a band together around her, and then she completely disappeared on me without giving me any notice. So I talked to the band, and they said, let's keep going, get another singer. So I got another singer that became Icebreaker, that became Soul Rising, and I met the drummer I have now, Sandro Feliciano from Brazil, 8 years ago. He toured the world with Tina Marie, and he's played with Aerosmith and Flora Purim, Funkadelic, Parliament. He's a very accomplished drummer. So the first time I heard him play with us, I knew I wanted to stay in the band with him. And then we got, after that, singer Kadia Handon came. And then we kept changing members and upgrading, and we got Sandy Chao Wang, who's a keyboardist from China, fabulous player, great-looking person, tremendous performer. And then we got Kazuki Tokaji, who's a Japanese virtuoso, really serious, deserving musician. And finally, we got the last 6 to 8 months or so, we came across Lauren Richards and Whitney Kaufman, and the band is now the best it's ever been. We have an outside writer named Adrian Jones, who's a genius, friend of mine who God brought into my life. And so he's been writing most of the songs and co-writing most of the songs for us. So I try to solicit outside songwriters so that the music stays fresh and young, because I'm into Yes, so no one wants to hear that. So try to keep it current and modern with as many young players as possible, as many young writers as possible. And we're managed by Johnny Miller, who's a great friend of mine, somebody I trust. And we have Abigail Oliver doing choreography for us, and Matthew Finley from Berklee School of Music arranges our vocal harmonies. And so I've got a team around me now that's the most beautiful gift. Start crying.
Yeah,
it's the most beautiful team of people I've ever had. I've been doing this a long time, Sheila, and I really love these guys. It's the best thing I've ever done.
Yes, they are. I know from the people I met maybe a couple years ago in Beverly Hills, and some of the band, they were just incredible, loving people and beautiful performances. I do miss our live event where we got to go and see the performances live, and I can't wait for that to happen again. And until then, how is your band and other people in music? How are you getting your music out still, even with our worldwide pandemic and all that's going on?
I'm the worst person to ask that because I'm the oldest and the least familiar with social media. But as far as I can tell, now people release songs online. They do live streaming to stay in contact with their followers, and revenues have to be generated from Spotify and live streams and YouTube views and advertisements and sponsorships and things like that to take the place of product sales and live performances and that kind of thing. So we just keep making videos and releasing them regularly, and social media is key now.
And I can imagine that there's a lot of new songs being written, and it is such a time that there's a lot going on. And so it brings me to, how does the spirituality connect? You have a lot to do with spirituality in your life and in your music. I'd love to hear how that shows up in your music and plays a part in all you're doing.
Okay, I'm trying to cry. So the main, I try to pick the. Okay, so when I was doing music, when I was young, when I first got to Los Angeles, I'm full of spirit. I'm trying to do this, and I needed money, right, to do it. And so there was a guy named Tony St. Jr., and he's dead now, but he owned a liquor store. And so we were looking for funding one day, and I said a prayer. I opened the Yellow Pages, I pointed to an entertainment lawyer, and called their office. Tony happened to be a client of theirs, happened to be sitting in the office, happened to be looking for a project to back, and he put $100,000 into the band I had. And I promised that guy that whether I made it or not, I would do that for somebody else. So as time goes on, I get to become a doctor. I get to have money and put things, and I'm also surrounded by investors who are other recovering people that help me. And so I told Tony I would return that favor. So I look for the most talented people I can find, who are also the most serious people I can find, who are also the most deserving people I can find, who are also loving and have light in their heart. Those are the criteria that I look for. And they are hard to find. It's probably 10 out of 100 people that have that level of talent, first of all, and then out of that, half of them are crazy or not focused or not disciplined enough. So it's really about 2 to 3% of the musical population in any particular category of instrument or position that's able to do the thing, and you got to find the one person that has the right heart. So that's why I kept on hold of Sandra for 8 years, and then eventually we came across Sandy, and eventually we came across Kazuki, we eventually came across Kadia, and most recently the two harmony singers we have now. It's always been a steady climb in talent and a steady climb in spirituality and heart, and I'm just very grateful for the team that surrounds me. And that also goes for the choreographers and the vocal arrangers and management too. I'm just really blessed with the people that surround me right now.
That is so important. To have a business, a band, or if you're listening in, maybe you have a business, maybe you're not into music, but whatever you're into, whatever business you're running, or maybe you're building a home-based business now, if you are heart-centered and in integrity and aligned with your core values and purpose, and you have a vision, it's going to make all the difference. And sometimes that means stepping away from people that aren't aligned, maybe, or having to really wait for the right people to show up. It means interviewing clients and making sure that even your clients fit. And so it's really important, circle of influence, peer group, people that you hire, maybe even if you're hiring a VA or someone to help you with your business, even if you don't have a band, to make sure that the values align, that you're on the same page. Because if they are not in integrity, if they are not aligned, they're misrepresenting you. And then that's an issue that will really affect your business. So it is the best way to go, although it is difficult to find. When you find when you find those people, it's like the thing we say where we can count our true friends on our hands. And that's if you're really lucky. If you're lucky, you get 5 or 10 that are like rock solid, and and so it's the same thing where when you find those people that you can really have a good work team with, it doesn't matter what industry you're in. That's where you really start to make something, and you're on the same page, and you have a mission that is aligned. So that makes a big difference.
I try to structure the project so that we share revenues equally. Everybody gets paid equally, bonuses whenever possible, and the whole point is to try to project ethnic and cultural diversity and cooperation, and exactly what the country and the world needs the most right now, in my opinion. We're actually I didn't intend to do this, but it's very timely now. We have people Sandy's from China, Kazuki's from Japan, Sandra's from Brazil, Kadia's a black woman singing rock, and we got the white girl Whitney and the Spanish girl Lauren, and it's just very international and very multicultural and very beautiful what we're trying to do. Light.
That's what we need. Unity is a big thing right now, for sure. We need a lot of peace and unity and love on this planet, and And music, I mean, when you think about it, music is so much a part of our lives, how we celebrate things, how we remember someone, how we honor somebody's memory. We play music many times. Music is a lot of the key to healing and peace. It brings happiness. And I think there's going to be a lot more music coming out of all this, being on lockdown and all that. There's going to be so much creativity showing up. And
completely.
Yes, I can't wait for that. So I would like to go back a little bit to so are you still in medicine, or how did that show up, or does that show up at all in what you're doing now or what you learned?
Yeah. I work a day job at a medical clinic from 9 to full time, and my license is not current, so I do everything up to the point of making medical decisions. I work very closely with other doctors, and I'm in a group of recovering other medical doctors who have drug histories, and I'll be up for relicensure sometime toward the end of this year.
Wow. So you're on the front lines. Are you working with the COVID situation or other?
Those people tend to go to urgent care places, and they are at our place. We do COVID testing, but we generally speaking don't allow people in who have temperatures or symptoms suggestive of recent COVID exposure. So we try to keep that to a minimum. But we do COVID testing for people.
Wow. Yes, that's very interesting in Los Angeles. So yeah, I mean, I'm not in Los Angeles now, but that's my hometown. So
Where are you now?
I'm actually in Vegas right now
as
we speak. So yes, and it is interesting. I do miss all that for sure. We'll be back soon as travel opens again. But I rented out my main home and went over to my little teeny cabin place by a lake to kind of chill out. So it kind of works. Yes. So that is incredible. Wow. And tell me about some of your songs. Is there a song that is one of your favorites in particular that has a lot more meaning, or in your band?
All of those songs are have spiritual undercurrent to them, although it's not overtly spiritually expressive. You know what I mean? There's just an undercurrent of light and positivity to all of them. The harmonies indicate that, and we try to cover the range from some more powerful stuff to some more poppy stuff. And because it's a new project, we're trying to make everything as commercially viable as possible. And the video we're releasing now is called Dead. It's one on the more powerful side, and I'll hopefully be showing that. And then there's a single we just released last year called Could Be You. There's a little bit lighter pop type stuff. So we sort of laid the framework with Could Be You, and then we kind of hit them with Dead coming up next.
Wow. Yeah. That's great. So one of the questions I usually ask people on this show is, if you could go back in your life, what advice would you give yourself? Maybe like your 20s for now.
Oh, yeah. The advice I give myself is very clear. Self-acceptance. I have issues with shame, guilt, self-esteem. I was a light-skinned kid in an all-black elementary school. My parents made me wear a bow tie, and I was like Urkel, and I got beaten quite a bit. Then from there, I integrated Atlanta, Georgia's last private white high school, and I got beaten and acid poured on me and spat on, and just it was crazy. And so those things caused me to, I got to the point where what's wrong with me? So I had very little self-esteem, still deal with those issues. And I'm bisexual. I had guilt about that. And just feeling inferior and guilty and not accepting myself. So the drugs and all that are symptoms of these problems. The drugs not actually the problem, it's the issues that we're medicating. So it took me, the advice I would give myself is to go to some therapy and deal with these issues rather than allowing using drugs as an artificial means of relieving the pain.
Yes, that's very, I often wonder with stories like that, where there's situations where a child is in a school being bullied or having a really bad experience.
I went to school with people who were like the people that went into the Capitol the other day. My school was
Yes.
people like that in Georgia at that time.
I recall my own interesting experiences in school, and some of them, it was really interesting. Growing up, I was homeless at 10 to 13 and a half, and then in foster care. So before that, I stayed with relatives that beat the crap out of me and my mother, and and it was so bad. I would go to school in tears because I mean, it was broken arms, broken everything.
Wow. I
mean, like bad things. And, you'd get thrown across the wall and you'd be unconscious until the next day. Things like that. Then I'd go to school and I was only allowed one outfit for the whole week, and I wasn't allowed to shower. So of course I was picked on. And it was like,
that's crazy.
so I really love clothes. and it was, and I finally made a friend that let me borrow her sister's clothes and shower at her house. And I had to be very resourceful and get out of there for safety. But the kids were so mean. And then I actually stayed in school, even though I was homeless, because my mother would vouch for me, because she told me to leave for safety because there was so much abuse going on at home. And so while I'm on the streets here and there, I went to different schools, and it was interesting because I was the most popular kid.
That's great.
And it's like, how does this happen when I'm the same person? Like, I felt like I was the same person, although I didn't. And so it is a matter of the mindset of the community, also how the energy that goes into, I mean, if you're going to school and you've got this energy of something else that happened, there's the energy of that. Or, I mean, you said you had to wear a bow tie and you didn't fit in. I had clothes, one outfit that was a polyester handmade, totally didn't fit in with the designer outfits. And, it was just so interesting to see that difference. And I never, ever, when I was the most popular kid at the schools and had all these friends, I made sure I was popular with all the different, how they have the little middle school, the cliques and all that. Everybody was my friend, and especially the kids that were picked on. I was one that really stuck up for everybody and made sure that we didn't have that shit. and of course I got kicked out of schools because they were mad because I said, we shouldn't be against each other. We need to just get against the establishment. Let's have a ditch day. So I mean, I was modeling leadership skills at a young age, I guess. But it's so interesting how you can have a child have an opportunity transfer to a different environment. Environment is so important. And now that our children are home or in a different environment, I don't know how that's going to affect us, good, bad, and different. I'm not sure, but it is a wonderful time to support our families. Maybe your kids are all grown or you don't have children, but neighbors that have children, see how you can help out in one way or another, because it is hard and it's isolating for our kids. And it's a different time right now. So it's really important to make sure they get help. One thing I share about in every show is 211. Have you heard of 211, Michael?
No, I don't know what that is.
Okay, this is really important. The 211 is a resource that's available in every single state in the United States and in every province in Canada. And it's basically, if you Google 211 and California, you're going to get all the resources. So if you're somebody that is struggling, like with a drug addiction, or you're in an abusive home, or you need food on your table, or you need help paying your rent, or you need help getting a job or something, there's help for veterans, there's help for, seniors, all kinds of different resources are there and it's free. The problem is that it's not getting out to enough people. And a lot of the times we're able to do things to get our life back on track. You can read my book. You can read a whole bunch of books. You can listen to motivational YouTubes all day, but you might need to get food on your table first, or you need to get over this addiction and you need help with your child that might be getting into an addiction or something like that. That's where these resources, and that's why I share about it every single show, just about, that's very important. Even if you never need a resource, you may run into someone, family, friend, someone that walks into your place of business who needs a resource. If you can just post it at work. A lot of times people don't want to ask for help when they need it. But if they see, oh my gosh, there's this list of resources and I can get help, then that's going to be something that if they could have received that help sooner, that's going to get them back on track sooner. And it's going to help their family. There's people that are struggling with different things right now, especially isolation. Maybe they're depressed. And so there's getting the resources out to people. So just remember, you can dial 211 and you will actually get someone answering that number and giving you the resources you need as well.
I made it a point to do community service for a while too, but this is before I started the drug addiction though. But I worked in a CETA program that was funded by the federal government in late 70s, early 80s, and I trained 386 people and got them off welfare and got them jobs as hospital technicians, EKG techs, pharmacy techs, medical assistants, lab assistants, that kind of thing. Really rewarding. I wanted to make sure I tried to give something back to the community and particularly to minorities that I had seen that were so underserved in Atlanta when I grew up there.
Yes, it is definitely important. And one of the things I know that Tony Robbins does a lot is he did these breakthroughs, and it's a whole series you can purchase, I think, download somewhere on Netflix or something. And it's different people that have gone through serious tragedies. And the first thing he tells them to do is to volunteer, to help, to actually give back. So it's getting out of your head and into your heart. And it's actually blessing you, serving you as much as you're serving the other person or group or whoever you're helping out. You're out of your own pity party, whatever you're going through, and you're on to healing and you're giving back. And then you're in community with other people. And you forget your own little problems. You realize, whoa, there's bigger things going on. There's other people. And, to receive love, you need to give love. And so that is really an important key. And if you're listening in right now and you're looking for work, maybe that's the other thing that I have always found very interesting is that I have actually, there's been times where I've been out of a job and I needed a job as a young person, whatever, and I would go volunteer for something I cared about. A lot with equal education for all in schools, because we don't have that school in the U.S., obviously. And that was a big thing. I worked on that for over 20 years. And so for that, I volunteered a lot of hours. But I kept getting job offers. I would get hired to do things because I was really good with people and leadership and running these different events and programs. And I was really blessed from it. That was not why I was there. It just, I wasn't even looking for work and it would just show up because they get to see who you are. When you're volunteering, they get to see who you really are. And you're playing full out. You care about something. You care about the cause. You're giving 100%. And so people will write you a letter of reference, or they'll hire you on the spot. That's where I had a lot of times they'd say, I want you to help me, run this program, or where I did it after school in the parks with kids. I didn't sign up for that. It was something they please just do this. We really need you to do this. Okay. And I was open to do it, but that's another way to get jobs in something you love, where maybe you don't have the education, but you have the skills. And when they see you in action, then they're going to give you that opportunity. Yes. So I'd love to get back to the band now a little bit more. Is there a way for people to listen or download, or how do we hear Circle of the Earth, and how do we learn more about what you're doing next?
I think you just Google circletheearth.com, Circle the Earth LA, or just go YouTube Circle the Earth, not the one, could be you or Dead. It'll all come up. Dead comes out now. There'll be a big push behind that in a couple of weeks.
All right. That's great. That's wonderful. And is there any advice you would give to the listeners here that are very interested maybe in getting into music, maybe getting into a band or sharing their music one way or another? Any advice?
The first thing I would advise you to do is to become fluent on your instrument or your voice. You got to take lessons. You got to be competitive, and you have to have a lot of drive and discipline. The second thing is you got to have a fallback job so you can support yourself. You don't want to be. You got to be. I just highly recommend some sort of trade, some sort of reliable position that you can work for, so you can fund your artistry, because it requires that. And then you have to be willing to accept rejection a lot. And it's almost, the better you are, the harder it is. And then you have to fearlessly and obsessively network, so you can filter out the thousands of people who are there to cheat you and mislead you and use you, to get to the 2 or 3 people who are there to do something right.
Exactly. That's beautiful, Michael. Thank you so much. Thank you for being a guest on the show. And it's
wait, we didn't talk about the spiritual stuff.
Oh, well, let's talk about that. Yes.
Okay, all right.
I want to hear more about that then. If you have to, yes, this is important.
Okay.
I love the spiritual stuff.
Yeah, so this is the thing. So I'm doing drugs and all that's one aspect of my life. But the other aspect of it is I've had a lot of paranormal experiences that started at childhood. My these beings of light used to come in through the wall and levitate me out the wall and stuff like that. And I used to tell my parents about it, and they said it was just my brain forming and none of this was real. So I put that aside. This is when I was 5 years old. Yeah.
Okay.
I was
So
a kid. I'm at
yes.
age 5, and they're coming through the wall and levitating me out. I'm sleeping my parents to get away from them. They put my parents to sleep and levitate me out anyway. So my parents said that wasn't real. So I, for a while, believed none of that was real. And then when I went to, but I kept it in the back of my mind. When I went to Stanford, there was, I was taking a class called Extraterrestrial Civilizations. They teach it like it's biology. And a friend of mine, my best friend, his name is Fred, was taking a class called Altered States of Consciousness. And this was where Stanford was doing the remote viewing research. And when Ingo Swann moved the neutron detector with his mind, and this whole campus was with all this paranormal stuff going on. And one night, so I'm in my sophomore year. This is what happened to me. I'm in my sophomore year, and my best friend goes to study in Stanford in England for the summer. And I stay to work in the psych department and do karate. I do that too. So one night I have a dream, and in this dream, I'm in a material form, a vapor form. I don't know if you can see this or not. You probably can't. Can you see that? All right, and I'm in a vapor form, and I come out of the ground underneath the tire of a car. Okay.
Okay.
And I'm inches tall, and I get taller and taller and taller, and I materialize in front of this house. So I'm in front of this house, and it's dark, and the wind is blowing, and the trees are blowing, and I go inside, and there's a party inside the house, and there's people inside the house, and there's a girl in there that I didn't know yet. So I go inside the house, I walk around, I turn to the left, and my friend Fred is in the house. And I'm like, what are you doing in my dream? And he says, I think I'm asleep in England dreaming. And I think you're asleep at Stanford in Palo Alto dreaming, and we're having a shared dream like what we study in school. And I'm like, that can't happen. So then he says to me, wherever we are, this place, mind controls the environment. So he waves his hand, and the ceiling disappears and the stars come out. And then he waves his hand back again, and the ceiling reappears. And he says, you try it. So I tried it 1, 2, 3, 4 times. I couldn't get it to happen. And about the 12th time, I waved my hand, and the ceiling disappeared, and the stars came out. And he said, now look at this. And he turned to the side, and there was a chest of drawers in the room. So we opened the chest of drawers. And inside the chest of drawers, there were little people walking around. Like, and the chest of drawer opens. I don't know if you can see this here. and there's little people walking around inside the chest of drawers. Okay. So he
Right.
says, hey, this is really strange, but when I wake up, I'm going to write you a letter and tell you that this happened, and you tell me if and I said, this is not possible. I'm just dreaming all this. It can't be. So he says, I'm going to write. So we shake hands and we agree to remember this dream, and his hand disappears into a vertical whirlpool, and that's it. Okay. And then about 7 days later, I got a letter from him from Stanford with a picture from England, with a picture of the house, a picture of the ceiling, the stars, the people in the chest of drawers, and the whirlpool, and asking me did I have this dream. So when that happened to me, I realized that there was more to life than physicality, and I went about searching for it like a scientist, because I'm raised pre-med at this point. So finished Stanford, came to Los Angeles, and I got the whole lifetimes, and I just did a research study. I went to every single spiritual organization in there, and 90% of them, just like in music, 90% of them are, bullshit and out for your money and cults and all that. But I eventually ran into a spiritual teacher named John Roger, who is dead now, but he had paranormal abilities. He could tell you what you've been doing when he's never met you before, and I studied from him for a long time. Eventually, drugs came later, but the spiritual experiences that I had, starting with this, about 12 of them, no time to go into them all, but that formed the foundation of my scientific recognition of the fact that there's more to life than physicality, and that's along with the spiritual teachings that I got from him, along with inner seeking, I guess, coming to grips with myself are the things that carried me through my addiction and brought me into sobriety now. So
Nice. Yes. That is something that many people have. I mean, when you think about, you could interview people from all over the planet, and when they pass away, they're talking to somebody else, and they see their loved ones on the other side. And there's this whole other, and it's the same story. It doesn't matter what language, what culture, it's the same story. And
quick tell you about that?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I'm working in an emergency room in Needles, California, about the mid 80s. Okay. And so in there, hold on so I can find it. Go to
It is so interesting. Well, I'm talking while you're searching, so take your time, and I will share a little bit about. There are so many studies. My Michael and Sheila actually both went to Stanford every summer during high school for the whole summer, and did college and high school credits, and it was such a beautiful environment.
Yeah,
And
really.
it is a lovely, I love it there. It was just such a great experience. And as you know, my Michael is crossed over now, and we have signs all the time from the other side. And it's like, okay, how is this possible? We have a feather that's literally stuck on the top of our door to the backyard outside, and it has been there for an entire year through weather, windstorms, lots of rain, all kinds of different things. It's still there. No tape, no glue. It's a little feather. And I'm like, how is this possible? I mean, you can't even put a penny outside and it would go away within a year, somehow. And this feather is still there. And there's all these different signs and guidance. And when you think about the energy that there's now, I think there's science and there's spirituality have come together to realize that the reality of the energy that we put into things. So do you have what you were going to share?
Yeah. Yes. Okay, I'm working in an emergency room in Needles, California, in the mid 80s. So say the emergency room looks like this. There are 6 rooms, and I'm in room number 6. Okay, so in room number 6 is a little woman, and I asked her, "Why are you here?" And she's here for a medicine refill, and one of the medicines is an opiate. So I'm required to interview her deeply to find out why she takes opiates to make sure she's not drunk. So she looks at me, she says, "You're a spiritual guy. I can tell. Can I tell you a story?" I go, "Yeah." She said, "Well, last year I had a heart attack, and they came and picked me up from from my home and took me to the hospital, and I died on the table, and I floated out of my body, and I looked down on my body and saw them intubating me and shocking me, and I realized I wasn't going to make it. And the typical story about a thing of channel of light opened up, and I went into it, and I saw my dead parents, and I saw my dead relatives, and I saw friends of mine who had died that I didn't realize were dead, and some dead pets and that sort of thing. It was a very beautiful experience. But then the voice of God, I didn't see God, I just heard the voice told me it was not my time and I was going to come back. And when I did come back, I was supposed to share this experience with people who I think it's appropriate for. So she said, I just want you to know, I can tell you're searching for something and that there is a God in heaven, is real, and do you mind if I hug you? So I go, well, thank you very much. So she hugs me, and that's it. So I finished the interview, I go into the doctor's office, and I'm writing the chart. And then it's time to go into room number 1. That was room number 6. So I go into room number 1, and there's a little lady in room number 1. And she asked, I'm asking, why are you here? So she said, I need a medicine refill. I said, and one of the medicines is an opiate. So I have to ask her, so why do you take these medicines? And so she says, you look like a very spiritual guy. Do you mind if I tell you a story? I go, yeah. She goes, last year I was driving on the interstate and I fell asleep, and I had a head-on collision. And I was thrown through the windshield of the car, and I fell into the pavement, and I was dead at the scene. So I floated out of my body. I followed the ambulance along the freeway. On the way back, I saw them shocking me and reviving me with IV fluids and all that. And when I got to the emergency room, the light appeared behind me. I went into it, and I saw my dead relatives, I saw my parents, I saw friends that I didn't realize were dead, and pets and so forth. And a voice came to me and said, it's not my time to go back. And when this happened, I was didn't want to come back, but I had to. And the voice told me to remember this experience so I could share it with people with whom it's appropriate. And I think you're one of those guys. Do you mind if I hug you? So I said, okay. So then I hugged her, and I went back to the doctor's office, and I filled out the chart. So by this time, the first lady from the first room is number 6, has finished, and she's on the way out the door, and she can't seem to find her way out of the emergency room. So I go, well, let me walk you out. So I walk her out to the parking lot, and she stops for a second. She says, I need to go back into the room for a second, into the emergency room. I think I left something. Okay. So I walk back in. She goes in. She looks around. She goes to door number 1, knocks on the door, opens the door, and she says, you've been to heaven too. I can feel it. Something up. You've been to heaven too, haven't you? And she goes, yes, I have. And they both turned to me and they said, now we want you to remember this day and relate this experience to people who you think is appropriate. So I just try to share that when it's appropriate. So that's another.
Wow. That's beautiful. And that is anybody that's had an experience like that. There's so many similar stories and experiences, and I could totally spend hours sharing mine as well about these things. So I am definitely a believer. And with this being now, we're here in 2021 and all these new things, I think that more than ever, it is so important for those listening in, the energy we put into things makes such a difference. Imagine that. I mean, like the study, Dr. Emoto, and the study of water. Have you heard that study? So that's where they literally will put it was done at another university, I believe in Japan. And they wrote like love and peace and beautiful words on water, and it would turn into like snowflakes and lovely, beautiful things. And then on the other water, they'd write hate and anger and this kind of thing. And the water would literally be all ugly, and it literally changed the water under the microscope, changed the way it was just by the words. Sure. So even the words we speak, and there's other studies where they've done energy studies where maybe everybody focuses on a prayer or a meditation and of one thing, and then something will move or something will happen in another country or state, and it's all energy work. So what energy can we put into this world? And even through music, this is a vibrational energy that we're putting into our planet and our world right now to make a big difference. Yes. I love that. So what advice do you have with the spiritual side of things for people that, I know there's people that either they don't believe it or scientifically whatever, and then there's other people that are, they've had the same experience. What would you say about that?
Okay, so this is my opinion on that. Just I can have to speak for other people, but for me, it was first of all important to learn as much science as possible, and then just to pursue spirituality in the same way you pursue any other academic subject. Read about it, talk to people who are experts in the field, and be willing to do research. Yeah, like I went through every single spiritual organization in the whole lifetimes. It took 2 years to do that every night, and out of those 200 or 300 organizations, I came across Paramahansa Yogananda Self-Realization Fellowship, which seemed to be valuable, and I went to some pretty far out fringe organizations, but there was a lady who had never seen me before that told me about my music, about my past, about my pain, about my brother who was having a nervous breakdown that I didn't even know about, who had never met me before. So I've seen paranormal things occur in fringe organizations that you would normally think are crazy. And then I ran into John Roger, who was a demonstrably paranormal individual. So if you're willing to do the research and willing to accept negative results, just like you're willing to accept rejection in music, it's the same thing. You got to interview 1,000 people. You got to weed through the people who are trying to use you and misuse you and get to the 2 or 3, the tiny minority who are really transmitting light. And they do exist. They absolutely exist.
Yes. I think it's beautiful, and I think it's so interesting because you're a medical doctor, or getting your license again, but you're practicing in medicine, and then there's the spirituality, and how that my personal belief is, there's definitely a place for medical, and if you have something, you need to go to the doctor and check it out, but there's also a huge proponent to how you're living your life, and spiritual practice, wellness practices, and studies have shown just meditation or prayer that really can heal in different ways, because it changes our biology. It literally changes our environment, like the water. It changes our physical bodies and our biology, just even in boosting our immunity right now, or whatever, is just what we're surrounding ourselves, the music we're letting into our life, the people we let into our life, what we surround ourselves with, and how we show up. It doesn't matter what work we have to do right now. We may be called to do 5 different jobs to pay the bills, because our regular job got changed because our business is closed right now due to COVID. But that doesn't matter. It's who you're being and how you're showing up and the energy you're putting into this world that's going to make all the difference this year going forward, not for you only, but for your family, for the community, and for the country, and globally. So it really does. I totally believe that. And I think that every time I interview someone on this show, I feel like somebody needed to hear your exact message. And what an incredible message that you had to share today. Thank you so much, Michael. I really appreciated that.
Thanks. Let me add one more thing. It's just that the pain and stuff I went through from the physical abuse led me to take karate lessons. And that led me to a beautiful instructor at Stanford. I've been doing karate my entire life, and it's brought, I practice for spiritual reasons, and it's brought a whole network of beautiful, healthy people around me that are spiritually oriented. I work with a gentleman named James Field in Santa Monica, and I studied from a gentleman named Avi Roca in Los Angeles, and they're just fantastic people, and the people around them are beautiful, and it's a very large component of. I practice it for spiritual reasons, like a person does yoga. It's just moving yoga for me, and it keeps me healthy, it keeps me off of drugs, it keeps me balanced, reduces stress, and it's cardiovascular fortification, everything. So just another part of my life I want to describe. Thank you.
Yes. What practices can we bring into our lives? Whether it's daily yoga, karate, something that we can bring into our lives that's a healthy alternative to something else that's not so healthy. And it's a way to find peace and let go of everything outside of us and just be. I think that's beautiful. And I can't wait when things open up a little bit more to come over. I'm going to go to karate. I want to go to your karate studio and check it out. And then you can come and do yoga. I think I challenged you to come and do yoga, and we never got to do it.
It's really hard. It's really hard.
Yes. So we'll go do yoga and then we'll go do karate.
Okay. All right.
Awesome.
Yoga first so I can recover.
Sounds good. All right. And could you please share one more time how people can connect with the band and learn more and follow what you're doing?
Just you could go to Circle the Earth on Facebook, Circle the Earth on Instagram, or just Google circletheearth.com, or it'll come up. The
Okay.
new single is called Dead, that's coming out in a couple of weeks. Thank you very much for having me and allowing me the honor of being interviewed by you, Sheila. I have tremendous respect for you. Thank you so very much. I appreciate this.
All right. Thank you, Michael. And everybody stay tuned. We will be back after these messages.
Bye.
I wanted to take a moment and share one of the songs from Circle the Earth. So take a listen.
Gotta get away and make a few mistakes. I wanna get away now, making my great escape, just like I'm David Blaine. I gotta get away. Feels like I'm playing with fire, and I like it. Let's go and save for the night. Feels like I'm caged, I'm an animal. Gotta break away. It's time to let go tonight. It could be you, or you. There ain't no turning back. I'm like a maniac. Just call me super bad now. No sign of slowing down. Let's go to crazy town. There's nothing in my way. Feels like I'm playing with fire, and I like it. Let's go and save for the night. Feels like I'm caged, I'm an animal. Gotta break away. It's time to let go tonight. I wanna hear somebody say you want my body. I'm gonna make somebody say I wanna meet somebody, feel like being naughty. I'm gonna let you have your way. I wanna hear somebody say you want my body. I'm gonna make somebody say I wanna meet somebody, feel like being naughty. I'm gonna let you have your way. Say you want me. I wanna hear somebody say you want my body. I wanna make somebody say I wanna meet somebody, feel like being naughty. I'm gonna let you have your way. I wanna hear somebody say you want my body. I wanna make somebody say you want me. I wanna meet somebody, feel like being naughty. I'm gonna let you have your way. You, or you. It could be you, or you.
I'd love for you to grab a copy of my new best-selling book, Bootstraps and Bra Straps, the formula to go from rock bottom back into action in any situation. It is now available on Audible as well as on Amazon and Kindle and at www.sheilamac.com.